Hey guys, welcome to Overcrest. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jake.
I just, the hey guys thing is kind of funny because, hold on, let me pull up my notes here. I closed them when the app absolutely crashed. The dudes at the shop where I would hang out on Friday nights I would walk in the door. You know what they would say?
Hey guys!
Every time. I don't know if we need
I
don't know if we need like a hey guys t-shirt or something.
Probably.
Hey guys. And
I feel like we can't start the podcast any other way now.
You can't. Well, we do like occasionally, and it's kind of funny.
Yeah, when we just talk and get into it.
Yeah, but it's,
hey guys.
So what do you think of this list so far? This overhyped 9/11 list, and what do you think of? You weren't here for the interviews to give your opinion,
no.
So I'm just curious. How are we doing?
Here's my takeaway from it: I don't agree with the cars I would have instead of the 911, but there are cars I would have.
Well, off air we talked a little bit about one of the cars. And you're like, oh, well, this other car is way better. Look at this thing. Oh, you would like this thing. I'm like, dude, they made 300 of those, and they're $200,000.
Oh.
So there are, like recapping.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
let's do that. This is great. Let's do a recap.
It has to be a reasonable amount of money that you could probably sell your Long Hood or your Turbo or your Carrera or your SC and buy. So that puts us somewhere between zero. Dude, there was a Targa that just I'm bringing a trailer today.
Wait, the parts one?
The parts one. The
it
Targa
sold for $8,600 or something.
$8,600.
Yeah.
And Brandon sends it to me. He's like, or I post it up. He says, well, yeah, it comes with an engine and a transmission. Of course it's, it's a deal.
Though?
And I'm like,
I didn't even see what it came with.
You're proving my point. It came with like some shitty 2-liter flat six engine.
I saw a picture of just a case.
Yeah, the car needs $100,000.
Yeah,
like it's
to even get it drivable, as a nice car.
It is an $8,000 car that needs $100,000 worth of work
just to get on the road. That won't make it a $100,000 car, mind you.
69 Targa. I didn't see what color it was. At this point, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, true. Who knows?
Maybe. It could be if you did the work yourself. Maybe. Anyway, so there's that. So it's just another proof. But however, there was Valve and Piston, who is Instagram, an account. Correct. And he reposts different things and motorsport things. It's a great account. And he posted like something to pay attention to. And I think it was the price of a car that sold recently.
Okay.
And then it sold like previously. And it dropped in price. The 911.
Oh, it was a 911 that dropped in price.
I think it went down in price. And it got me to thinking, and I've been looking at things and just the economy and everything else. I think we're kind of at the peak.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we talked about this last week or not, but I think right now, whenever this episode comes out.
Okay. So that'll be the exact date.
This is the exact date. We are at, I think we are at peak pricing. I'm not saying things are going to crash. I don't think that's going to happen. I think...
But you'll see maybe a slight decline.
A slight decline or some consolidation or something like that. I think you're just going to see a little bit of
So we won't call it like a reset, but it'll...
No, I think we've reached the peak. I don't think we're going up any higher from here. We're not going to return to like pre-pandemic pricing.
So does that mean everyone should sell their 911s right now?
I don't think... Sure. I don't know. I don't care. I'm not. This is economic
if you're predicting
advice.
like this is the top of the economy right here.
Hey, if this is the top of the economy and you're going to sell your 911, stop listening to this podcast because I don't like you because you're in it for the wrong reason. Oh, you're not my guy.
That's the whole point of this series is cars you could have instead of a 911.
I know, but you're not my guy. Well, hey, if you're going to buy another car,
right?
Sure, but if you're the guy that's buying the car like 3 years ago because you thought it was going to go up in value, bro. Fuck out of this podcast right now. Get out of here. Hang it up. Just like a phone. Put it down.
If you have money and you're going to buy a fun car, why wouldn't you pay attention?
That's not the type of person I just described. I described the person that's buying the car because they are speculating on it. I don't like car speculators. And I doubt any of them are listening to this podcast anyway.
You're right.
So it's whatever. So I was thinking about, I talked to, obviously over the last week, this episode's been out.
Yes.
I've talked to people. Okay. And one
opinions have flown
in, and I don't really care to talk about everybody's opinions because we're kind of all over the place, right?
Okay.
But one thing that did kind of come up and like stick in my mind is like one of the cars we're going to talk about today. They sold 1,200 of. Okay, they're hard to find. They're kind of obscure.
The
scarcity of it.
Yeah.
And we talked about last week about how they sold 300,000 or 400,000 911s.
You're right. It's not a rare car.
However, I'm thinking about this in terms of this isn't like serial, right? This isn't like, I don't think that the
what does that mean?
supply and demand economic structure really counts towards this because it's
this isn't like you're talking breakfast cereal.
Right. Yeah, breakfast cereal.
I don't think cereal numbers. Or
I'm just thinking of something that everybody just buys and sells. They don't really think about it.
Commodity is what you're talking about. Yes.
Well, commodity would be the grain that goes into the cereal. Right. Cereal itself is not a commodity. I would consider 9/11 a commodity, but it is an emotional commodity. And when you think about, I'm thinking of the things that drive the price and has driven the price up. And I don't think it would be possible for the price to be what it is today if there weren't 400,000 of these cars. Because of the momentum would not be possible without the volume of cars. Yes.
There wouldn't be the exposure and the availability in order to drive the price up.
The availability of this person that's stuck in the feedback loop that I've talked about, going, holy shit, and then immediately going over here and being like, there's one for sale. Oh my God, there's all these for sale. And
you're wrong. You're wrong. Okay. And I'll tell you why. Look at, for instance, a Ferrari 250 GTO short wheelbase, right? It's astronomical. It's the most expensive car ever made, to be sold.
But it's always been astronomical.
There's small amount of them. Not to that level.
It's always been a hyper expensive, hyper exclusive car. So the 911 was cheap.
Yeah.
And now it's expensive. And I don't think you'd see that momentum, that huge rise, if there was an economy that's constantly turning over. Okay, so you have like buying and selling and buying and selling.
Because it really is the visibility that feeds into
this, I think so. That's what I'm getting at. I think that without the volume and people being able to actually go, holy shit, that's cool, and then go buy one, we wouldn't see the increase that we've seen.
Yes, and
just a thought. Just a thought.
No, it's an interesting thought. But I'm making the argument though. I think if it was less, if it was a rarer car, if the 911 was not made in as high a numbers as it currently was, I still think we would see pricing go up.
Yeah, maybe. I just don't know that I think it has something to do with it. The fact that people can buy and sell them regularly. Sure. And of course,
there are the guys that are the pricing,
right?
Yeah, speculation guys.
Jeremy Clarkson did leave me a voicemail about the 911, by the way.
He did?
Yeah, I'm going to play it for you right now.
Okay.
I loathe the Porsche 911. And it's going to die.
It was a short voicemail, but he got his point across. And I was thinking about how he notoriously hates the 911.
Yeah.
Do you think he hates the 911 irrationally? Has it become his shtick?
I think it probably started as just like a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, we're peeking behind the curtain here a little bit. There are things I do not hate as much as I come off as hating.
Oh, no.
Yes, I know. Spoiler, right?
Here's a spoiler for you.
What?
Everything I say that I hate, I actually
okay, well, let's put it this way. You're not actually much taller than I am. My point is, I think the whole Jeremy Clarkson... Nope, we're going right along. I think the whole Jeremy Clarkson thing started as maybe like a shtick. Like,
this is the first time in the history of ever I've cut Jake's microphone. How tall are you?
I'm leaving.
How tall are you?
5'4.5". No problem saying it.
With the cheater shoes or without?
Nope, that's straight up naked.
I am 5'7.5".
Yeah.
Almost 5'8".
That's still short.
That is 3 inches.
Yeah, still short though.
A lot of people would think 3 inches is not very much. I guess maybe.
I was gonna say, if that's what you think, then we're gonna make fun of you for something.
There's a percentage there. It's a significant amount. It's measurable.
Yeah, because we're short, so you can notice it. But like a normal 6-foot dude comes in, you'd be like, yeah, you're both really short.
That's true.
Right?
It is true.
Yeah. Anyways, the whole point of going there was I think Jeremy Clarkson probably started as a shtick where he had to be adversarial to Richard Hammond, right? Because Richard's like, yeah, 911. Also, yeah, Mustang and everything else. And so he was probably like, whatever, overrated. But
if you think about it, though, the 911 in its construction and design is pretty dumb. The weight balance, the way it's put together.
The motor's in the wrong spot, for sure.
I mean, he's not wrong in terms of engineering exercise.
It's wrong.
Yeah. I mean, Porsche specifically engineers the Cayman and Boxer to be worse than the 911 on purpose.
Right, because it wouldn't be otherwise.
Because
they're hamstringing it is what you're talking about.
Yes, it would kick the shit out of a 911 if you gave it the power and the brakes and the suspension.
Yes.
It would.
Yes, it would. You asked me what I thought of last week's episode,
Yes,
though.
yeah, absolutely.
And the funny thing is, I'm still just now getting text messages because I made mentions of things that I would like and I would pick.
Yes.
The first of which was a classic Mini Cooper, and I have had people trying to sell me their Mini Cooper now.
After the... After the third episode, when we get to the end of the third episode, you and I can talk about your list.
Okay.
Okay, that way.
I haven't really thought about it that much, but.
Well, why don't you? Why don't you think about your list, and then when we come in at the end, you can.
My question, I guess, for you.
I just don't want to be redundant. That's all.
Are people offering their car for sale that you're mentioning here?
No,
you haven't had any.
Everybody knows I'm broke.
I've had two people come up and try to sell me the Mini Coopers so far.
Jake, everybody knows I'm broke.
Oh, okay.
Everybody knows you're not. That's let's be honest here.
That's the difference.
One thing that I thought was fun was talking to Mike Burrows.
Yeah.
About how I tried to get him to drive my car.
Yeah, I know. And he refused.
And then I went into, I was just having fun. And I went into ChatGPT, and which is the AI software where you can type questions into it or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And I said, write me a song.
Oh, God.
About Michael Burrows.
Uh-huh.
And how he should drive a 911.
Okay.
But he won't.
Okay.
Write it in a romantic sense. In the theme,
so it's a love
song, or a sad or a romantic song, but in the style of Taylor Swift.
Oh, I love it.
And I put it out there, and I said, whoever gives me the best one gets $200.
Okay.
So I got a few back, and I want to play one for you.
Did you spend $200 of our budget on this?
My own money.
Really?
I legitimately gave somebody $200.
Oh my God, for real?
Yeah. Okay. I want you to, are you ready?
So this is a $200 song.
One of. I got a bunch. I gave it, yes.
How much money did you spend on this?
Don't worry about it. Right.
Okay, let's go.
I would like to, this song is titled Mike,
and
it is by Zach Carroll.
Mike, you're making a mistake. We can all drive Ferraris with K's. Mike, you never heard a song like a 9/11. Let's play along.
A little bit of Adam Sandler inspiration there. Mike.
Have you played this song for Mike Burrows yet?
I did. I showed it. So I also showed it to his girlfriend. I think Mike is tired of it because I've sent him a few things.
Oh no! Oh my God!
I've been bugging the shit out of him. It's so good. I'm gonna change my ringtone to be Mike every time he text messages me. It is going to be phenomenal.
My God. What was it? It's not all about Ferraris with a K.
With K's, yeah. It's not all about Ferraris with K's. So I'm gonna drive my 911 over there, and I'm gonna stick Mike in there,
and it's gonna be this song on a loop.
As he plays it. Mike.
That was amazing, Zach.
That was
amazing.
Incredible. There's a couple others, but I don't want to drag everybody through it.
Okay.
All right. What have you got for us for do you want to talk about Petrolbox a little bit?
I would love to talk about Petrolbox. Petrolbox is a monthly service made specifically for the automotive enthusiast in your life, maybe even yourself. It's a great gift. It's the gift that keeps on giving because it is a subscription service. Each month, they carefully select items including detailing supplies, you get detailing gear, you might get a tool, you might get apparel, such as a t-shirt.
Yeah.
You might. Did you get a Petrolbox since we recorded this?
No. You mentioned that last time too.
I know.
Yeah, you got to figure it out. Maybe
I better make a note of that.
Yeah,
because I miss mine. We do actually very much enjoy our Petrolbox.
I'm wearing one right now underneath this.
This isn't just lip service.
All of my t-shirts are Petrolbox t-shirts.
Petrolbox? Question mark.
Petrolbox. No. Get yours in the mail.
It's really great. Even
if you're in jail.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
it comes with tools.
Yeah.
So, like a filing kit. Yeah.
What are you going to do with an extra 10 millimeter socket while you're in jail?
I don't know. What if the bars are held together with 10 mils? You don't know.
There you go.
Petrolbox makes a great gift for your jail friend.
All right.
MyPetrolbox.com, as little as $19.95 a month. Check it out. Use the code OVERCREST at checkout. That will get you $6 off your order.
All right, Jake.
Yeah.
Do you know what a Lamborghini Marzal is?
I do because I looked this up ahead of time.
Okay. What is it?
It is a front engine V12 Lamborghini. It's a front engine.
But it's a concept car. It's a concept car.
Right. So I was talking about the wrong one.
Yes.
So this is the
look it up. Look up Lamborghini Marzal.
Marzal. It's probably a Z, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, there it is. Wow. And what year is this thing?
What do you think of this car? What do you think of it? It's 1967.
Are the see-through doors part of it? Or was that just a thing?
It's what did you say?
The see-through doors.
That's part of it. Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
This is the concept.
It looks like a DeLorean with extra headlights.
Dude, what is no?
It does. It's something about the hood profile. I know you're just like, well, everything wedgy is a DeLorean. No, it's not. But I
don't think it looks like a DeLorean at all.
Well, the one I'm looking at is like in stainless.
Well, anyway, you can. I was going to ask if you wanted one, and then I was going to tell you can't have one because it is a concept car.
Like a one of one.
One of one. This car was designed by Marcello Gandini.
Look at the interior.
Dude, look at the rear louvers on the rear hatch.
Well, so that's, and a lot of modern Lamborghinis that have like the hexagonal vents and stuff, that's a callback to this design.
Absolutely. So it was designed by Marcello Gandini. He designed one of the most beautiful cars of all time. And this is...
Are you talking about this one?
No.
Okay.
I'm done with this car.
Okay.
We're moving on.
Wow.
I just wanted to show you this car because it inspired the look of the car we're going to talk about.
Okay.
The Miura.
Yes.
Okay. The Miura, one of the most beautiful cars of all time.
Yep.
Gandini. But he also is the king of the wedge.
Okay.
Let me know if you've heard of any of these cars. The Pantera.
Of course.
The Stratos.
Yes.
Marzal.
Yep.
Countach.
Yep.
Fiat X19.
Yes.
Yes. The Lamborghini Diablo.
Oh, wow.
The Urraco.
Yep.
The 308 GT4.
Wait, Scirocco.
Lamborghini Urraco.
Oh, Urraco. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotta clarify that.
Scirocco was Giugiaro.
That's right. Yes.
Giugiaro. Okay. So we can't have the Lamborghini Marzal, but if someone were to sell their early 911, they could probably get a Lamborghini Espada.
Yes. Now,
which means sword in
cool.
Spanish.
Yes.
So it is the sword, the Lamborghini sword.
Because it's all about bullfighting, right? And so you're sticking the final blow with the Espada. So I love Lamborghini front engine cars.
Why?
Because they're lesser known.
It's true.
And they're cool. They still have a V12.
It's one of the reasons why this car can even be on this list. If this was a mid-engine Lamborghini, it would be
100%.
Zillion
But do you realize how many front engine cars Lamborghini made?
They tried really hard. They tried really hard for it to stick.
Yes. The first car they made, the 350 GT, was front engine. Then the 400 GT was front engine. Then they stuck the Miura in there, and that's when things really blew up. But the Espada then
was the Miura was not front engine.
No, I know, but I'm just going down the list.
Oh, okay.
It was like all front engine cars, Miura, and then the Espada was also front engine. They had something called the Isolero, which was front engine. The Jarma is the one I really like.
We cannot afford that.
Engine. That one's more expensive. That one is a bit more expensive.
A lot more expensive and extremely rare.
Yeah, and so there's like a handful of these ones that they didn't make many of them. The Jarma they did make quite a bit of. Let's see, total production they made, the Espada.
Yeah, 1,200.
Yeah, yep. So they're out there.
So this thing came out just after the Miura, which at the time blew everyone away.
Correct.
And while the styling isn't considered as beautiful, it's definitely unique. And while Ferruccio didn't like the Marzal, the Espada would still come along eventually. Ferruccio enjoyed the attention the Marzal attracted at the Geneva Auto Show, but he was horrified when he saw the car for the first time. It is a good show car, he said, but I will never make another. 10 years earlier, Ferruccio had owned a Mercedes 300 SL Gullwing, and he did not share Gantini's enthusiasm for the Gullwing doors, saying, such doors offer no privacy. A lady's legs would be there for all to see.
And this is coming from an Italian,
an Italian guy and a known womanizer. Obviously, Ferruccio lost the battle eventually, and that car, the Countach, is probably not something you can trade your 911 for.
No, definitely not.
It's difficult not to see the influence of the late 60s in the Espada. Looking at the right angle, you can absolutely see the Dodge Challenger. This is Italian muscle with a touch of delicacy and poise. What you don't see in comparison is a quad-cam 4-liter V12 instead of a V8.
With all of the carburetors.
With all of them. Every carburetor ever made. The engine was designed from the start to be a quad-cam 60-degree V12 as an intentional fuck you to Ferrari's single overhead cam per bank design.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah. Anything built out of spite like this is good in my book. When the prototype was originally tested, it made 400 horsepower at 9,000 RPMs.
Is this the same motor that the Miura had? Do you know?
No, it is not.
Okay, this was new.
No. The engine had 107 horsepower per liter.
Wow.
This 100 horsepower per liter club is something that BMW M dorks are always haranguing on about with BMW's inline 6 in the 90s.
Yeah.
30 years later.
Yeah.
Anyways, for production in the Espada, it was detuned to 325 horsepower and was fueled by 6 Weber 40s. This engine in the Espada was so good that it was used for almost 50 years. Its last use was the Murcielago in 2010.
Really?
In the summer of 1978, when a total of 1,217 Espadas had left the assembly line from a Lamborghini, they entered bankruptcy, and the Italian courts took control and stopped Espada production. So we probably would have seen more of this car.
It would have continued kind of the lineage of the model.
So as a comparison, we've talked about this, and I just want to re-emphasize this.
Okay.
So they made 1,217 Espadas.
1,200. Yeah.
1,217 to be specific.
I know, but I'm just rounding so you can actually.
Well, I'm about to be specific.
Okay.
For Porsche.
1,200 plus Lambo Espadas.
1,217 Espadas.
Yes, okay.
And according to flat6s.com, Porsche produced a total of 443,134 air-cooled 911s across all four generations.
400,000?
443,000.
Wow.
134.
Yes. Okay. Specific.
Well, let's be specific. Without
well,
yours,
you don't
it would be
have
133.
to be specific when the difference is that big.
Of the early 911, which is the most valuable, Porsche produced 1,000. It's a big number.
Yes.
111,995 units.
100,000. Yes.
They made 1,217 Espadas.
Right. Very rare. That's why I'm saying you don't have to be specific. 1,200 versus hundreds of thousands.
Quote, the Rolls Royce is a good car. This is what he said about, this. The Rolls Royce is a good car. It is quiet and comfortable and quite fast, but it's too upright and stodgy. In Italy, we need a car with every luxury for those who want to travel far and fast and can afford it. But it must have style and it must be beautiful. That is even more important than convenience. And that's it right there, Jake. Vibe. This car has vibe to its core.
More important than convenience. I like that.
It is undoubtedly cooler than almost any car built by German engineers.
Yeah, I do not like, you talk about style. It has style. I will not deny that. I don't love the rear of the car. I don't love the styling
it's very
of it, right?
60s, 70s wedge
It's
Italian.
very high up in the rear, though. Like, it doesn't have
That's a hatchback. You can open it. You
no,
put
I know.
stuff in there.
It's great.
It even has a little cover that slides over.
Privacy cover. Yes. I will say.
So you can put the extra, $100,000 that you have from not buying a 911 and buying one of these instead.
Did we talk about price?
They're like 40 to 60 grand, I believe.
Wow.
Let me just check that quick. I can hop over to bring
Do
a trailer.
a little update. I will say while you're doing that, this is one of my favorite wheel designs on
Okay,
any
they're 100
car.
grand. They're 100 grand.
Okay.
Yeah, 100 grand. Go ahead. Sorry.
This is one of my favorite wheel designs on any car.
Which one? There was a
bar
couple.
none. Yes, but this wheel was used on actually quite a few different Lamborghinis at this period. It's the Campagnola it's a magnesium wheel.
Campagnola, yes.
Yep. And it has a knockoff, though. So it's a spline drive knockoff center lug.
That's in the series. I like those other wheels that replace those a little bit better.
Okay.
But
it's just such a unique design, right?
All right. Yeah. So I wanted to talk to somebody about the Espada.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to find an owner. So I found someone who has driven one and made a little film about one.
Okay.
His name is Magnus Walker.
Hey, we know him.
We do.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Pretty good. Looks like you're in the studio.
I am here. I am in the studio.
Anyway,
all right.
I'm here.
Dude, I tried to do a...
There's a rhyme in there somewhere, I think.
Yeah, I've just got where's my camera? I've got this here. I can't see myself. I'm a little... let me see. Can I show myself?
You look good. Don't worry. You got the cans on, the baby beard's going in. You're looking good.
I shaved my beard for Halloween. It was the biggest mistake I've ever made.
Hey, we all do crazy things.
Right on. So, man, so I put together these episodes, and a lot of it comes from kind of being salty that I haven't had my 911 for a year. You know, I haven't had my 911 for a year. The engine cost me 30, 40 grand. I'm kind of grumpy about it.
30, 40 grand? What are you building? That, back in the old days, that would have bought me 4 cars with engines.
I know. Back when I bought my car, it would have bought me 4 cars. And that's only 10, 11 years ago.
What are you doing in the engine for 30, 40 grand?
Well, first of all, the oil line from the site that goes right to the pump fell off when I was driving it. Blew the motor up.
You got to stay lubricated first off.
Yeah, dude, it just absolutely shit canned every single thing that moves inside the engine. And it broke a rod, which tumbled around inside the case and broke the case.
That's going to sound good.
It didn't sound good at all. It was like the worst sound it ended up being the sound of me crying, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, literal tears as I'm pushing the thing up the street. Some guy like came off the sidewalk and he's like, "Hey man, do you need some help?" It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. Anyway, so I'm a little bit salty about all that. I haven't had the car for a year. So I start seeing
to find sort of someone's secondhand motor. That's been my path of least resistance in your similar position. Instead of going down the rebuild, I'm just like, who's got something out there that's semi-hot rod that you want to get rid of?
Yeah, I know, but like the motor was already a 3.2 short stroke with PMOs.
Yeah.
And it's a big motor. So just throwing a 2.7 in that, I can't go backwards.
Yeah, you'd have to go to a hot rod 3.4 that came out of someone's race car who was upgrading to something even, people always upgrade, right?
They're all 30 grand. Every one of those is 30 grand. Well, it's
I guess I haven't bought a motor in a long time because, I guess the last one I bought is a 2.8 twin plug that's in 2.7 that was, someone's former race motor that was getting dumped on Pelican for less than 10 grand.
Yeah. Just keep your fingers crossed you don't have to. That's all I can say. So that kind of is like what formulated the idea for these 3 episodes, which are basically, and it's a little tongue in cheek because I don't necessarily believe this, although I'm starting to. The 911 is the most overpriced sports car of all time currently. And, we've had conversations about why this has happened. Why are we in this predicament? How did we get here? Is it a social media feedback loop? They made 400,000 of these cars. How is it possible that they become so expensive? And I've talked to a bunch of different folks. Mike Burrows, I've talked to Ron Zaras from Hoonigan. I've talked to Paul House, who is a designer at McLaren. And some of the things that the themes that have come up is repeatedly is bring a trailer and the availability and ease of purchasing cars online. And the film Magnus Walker came out with, 10 or whatever.
Interesting. Interesting trifecta there.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of things that just kind of happen, but how do you feel as someone that people are saying, hey, I don't want to say it's your fault because it's not necessarily a bad thing. But when people say, hey, Magnus Walker had a lot to do with the kickoff of the 9/11 culture that we know today, how do you feel about that?
I don't really think too much of it. Timing, obviously, Urban Outlaw came out 10 years ago, over 10 years now. The environment was a bit different. Everything you've already said makes perfect sense. Manufacturing Love to Cool coming out in 2014 and a lot of people drinking Porsche Kool-Aid and a new demographic. And as you know, I'm not saying anything you don't know, prices doubled and tripled. And here we're at this unaffordable price point. But I think there are still deals out there. Obviously, air-cooled 911 is, to a lot of people, unobtainable and overpriced. I haven't bought an air-cooled 911 in a long time because when I bought them 20, 30 years ago, I've owned a lot of them and I used to buy them it was common to pick them up for $4,500, $5,000. Like 20 grand was a really, really expensive air-cooled 911. And I'm talking, I bought 3-liter turbos for 20 grand type of thing. So the thing is, air-cooled 911 centric. Let's not forget, I'm the guy that bought a $5,000 996 that was a running driving car in the past 5 or 6 years. So there are still bargains out there if you're prepared to hunt and you don't care about air-cooled. 2 years ago, I bought my 2014 991 Turbo S. I've talked about this before. I was not interested in a 991 Turbo S because it's a new car, even though it's, 9 years old, but the technology is like a dozen years old. But the point that I'm going to ramble on about here is I bought a 2014 991 Turbo S with 50 pages of invoices, one owner car, not 4 bros thrashing the shit out of it, doing tunes and exhausts and making ridiculous, unusable power and abusing the car. The car was stock other than the replaced transmission that the prior owner had done outside of warranty when it had 120,000 miles on it. So here's the kicker point to this story. Sticker price in 2014, 193 grand. I think the guy was in the car at least 250 grand. Mature owner, lived in Newport Beach, commuted to Beverly Hills. He put 160,000 miles on this car, and I paid $60,000 for it 6 years later. So once I acquired it, I didn't love the car, but later on, when I did like a 1,000-mile road trip in a day, I learned to realize this was the Swiss Army knife of Porsches. And what I also realized when I really started digging deeper, because I was originally looking for a 997 turbo, I realized that these are, six-figure cars generally, and the average mileage on a 2014-ish Turbo S is probably 50,000 miles is high. The average is probably 25 to 30. So the moral to the story is, if you don't care about mileage, there's still bargains out there. And unfortunately, a lot of Porsche owners and car owners in general, call them sports car owners, get really afraid of mileage. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. In reality,
Porsche.
This car.
I think if you looked at like Ferraris or something like that, or some of like the really like cars that are kind of on their own little knife edge type of thing, you have to worry about it. But one thing that's always been great about Porsche is you can drive them. The mileage isn't a big deal.
I mean, I'm now at 172,000 miles. It's not my daily. I've got plenty of other cars to drive. This may be one of the higher mileage Turbo S's in the country. But other than doing little Mickey Mouse plastic cooling lines and things like that, there haven't really been any issues. If I have one gripe about it, it's the top of the line Turbo S shares a lot of switchgear with entry level models. Nothing's bespoke on it. The little, one sec. Sorry about that.
No problem.
The little, switches for the hood latch and the windows, these are all the same plasticky parts bin pieces that are on an entry-level Boxster. Porsche doesn't necessarily go, okay, top-of-the-line Turbo S, 200 grand car, whatever it is, let's do some bespoke switchgear that's milled aluminum or carbon or whatever it is. It's the same generic parts bin plastic crap that goes in everything else. So they don't differentiate when it comes to swapping over of parts bin stuff. Those are the little glitches that I've had with the car, along with plastic cooling lines. Nothing really mechanical for a car that, has got a lot of mileage on it. But it was a bargain. So, when people say 911s aren't affordable, I know 60 grand's a lot of money. But when you think the other guy was in at 250 and he only owned it 6 years, this is a vast amount of depreciation.
So what you're saying is the air-cooled stuff has gotten so expensive that you might as well just buy a water-cooled car and have a great experience.
I say it all the time. When people come, I get it all the time. First time Porsche.
I wouldn't expect that from you. Like,
what do you mean?
When I think as the avatar that is Magnus Walker, I think of all the films that you've done, and you're always in. And of course, I guess maybe over the last few years, things have changed in terms of the outward public persona. But I just think of you with your air-cooled cars. I mean, that's what I think of most when I think of you.
I've owned a lot of air-cooled 911s and 914s, and I still own a lot. And I don't, I've got I got 5 water-cooled Porsches. 4 of them are 996s. One's entry level, one's a GT3, one's a GT2, one's an Aero kit. So that's 4 Gen 1 and Gen 2 996s, which until 2 years ago, I would say was the best bang for the buck.
Yep.
So the question came when people were like, first-time Porsche buyer, what's your budget? They'd tell me what the budget was. Let's say it was 30 grand. I'd be like, forget about air-cooled. Other than the cool factor of what air-cooled brings, and I get it, the Kool-Aid element, I go, the practicality and reliability and performance bang for the buck, just get a 996. And this was back when you could pick up a 996 turbo in the 30s to 40s. Those days have now gone. But entry-level first-time Porsche ownership, 996 Gen 1 or Gen 2 base model or Carrera model, to me, is the best way to get into 911 ownership. I think a lot of people spin the wheels and spin around where they're looking for the perfect car, which is never out there.
Yeah.
Our buddies that wanted the perfect air-cooled 911, I go, it doesn't exist. Perfection's not necessary. You've wasted years looking for this perfect car when you could have been behind the wheel experiencing everything that you know about air-cooled or water-cooled Porsches. It's better to get that experience in something that might be, average or whatever, but not perfect, rather than never experiencing anything behind the wheel of a 911. So to me,
it's kind of boring too, right? That's not much of an adventure,
No, and it's the same with these guys that want GT3s. Another guy, a few days ago, I'm giving him a tour of my exhibition at the Peterson. He's yakking on about a GT3, first-time Porsche owner. I go, why do you want a GT3? This is not a daily. You're not going to drive it that much. It's not that practical. It's a lot of money. A lot of people get sucked into, let's be honest, the big dick attitude of a GT3 RS has been the pinnacle. But, I guess I'm getting older. So to me, practicality comes into it. I go back to the Swiss Army Knife Turbo S and the LA to Moab drive, 12 hours, 800 miles in one day. I wouldn't want to do that in a GT3. And, it might not be quite as convenient doing it in something like 277. So, maybe, my thought process has changed a little bit on Porsche ownership, not just 911 ownership. I'm all about variety. So it's front engine, mid engine, rear engine, air and water cooled. So it's everything. The 924s, 928s, 944s, 968s, 914s, all about variety. So I've sort of moved on from a Porsche has to be, this, an air-cooled 911. To me, it doesn't have to be that.
Well, speaking of diversity, one of the cars that I chose, so I picked out 12 cars. I'm like, these cars, it's just for fun, right? So these are just 12 cars that I like that you could sell your air-cooled 911 and buy today. You could sell your air-cooled 911 for whatever it is, $60,000 to $150,000 if you've got an impact bumper to a long hood car, and you could buy these. And one of them, and I mentioned this to you when we first started texting about having you on, is the Lamborghini Espada. And it blows my mind that I can sell my 911, go online, and buy a one of 1,200 V12 Lamborghini for what I have in my 911. And it just seems like that car, other than the personal relationship I have with my 911, which makes it very special to me, just as a vehicle, the Lamborghini seems far more special. And I know you've driven one, so I just want to hear about what that experience is like and if you agree.
Yeah, it's a great concept. I've driven an Espada when I was doing the show with Haggerty, the big thing, next big thing. When you think of Lamborghini, you don't think of a Spada, right? It's not the first thing that jumps to mind. You mentioned Lamborghini, it's probably Countach, then Miura, then probably Aventador. Probably in that order, I think, for a lot of people. A Spada, it's like you got to scratch your head.
What is
barely
that?
In the top, barely in the top 10 of Lamborghinis. But I really like the quirky, oddball cars, that style, that shape. Driving it is a different thing. Driving an Espada for me was anticlimactic because it's heavy, it's sluggish, it's tractor-like, the seating position's really laid back, it's not ergonomic, it wasn't really fast, it wasn't sharp, it didn't turn, but it also didn't matter because I was in something that was really, really cool, and it made me feel cool, and it made me feel like this is unique, it's a unique experience. They're not common on the road. All of those things sort of mitigated the fact that, your early 911 will just run circles around a Lamborghini Espada, but you hit the nail on the head with the V12, the sound of that engine and the clickety-click of the gate shift. I mean, I sort of did something very similar because I was half interested in a Lamborghini Espada until I drove one. And maybe I didn't drive a great one, so I haven't given up on that idea. But another idea I had, maybe a car on your list, I don't know, but I bought it. A 1975 Ferrari 308 GT4 Dino, the only Bertoni-designed Ferrari up until probably 2017. And when you think of Ferrari, you don't think of 308 GT4 Dino,
No.
Bertoni-bodied wedge, the poor man's Ferrari, entry-level Ferrari. You can pick these up for 40 grand. You can pick them up for less.
And that car was the comparison in your video, right? The figure you did for Haggerty also had that car in it, correct?
Yeah, I did. So I basically bought the almost the exact same version of that blue 308, except with Berlinetta trim.
It's a better car, a better driver's car than the Espada.
I think the Ferrari is just more nimble. It's a smaller car. It's also not as nearly engaging as a Porsche driving experience. But just like the Lamborghini with the V12, with the Ferrari, you got the V8 howl and the clickety-click of the gate shift. So for me, it ticked a lot of similar boxes to the Lamborghini Espada, was actually probably half the price of an Espada, and seemed a little more spirited on the road. The Lamborghini Espada is a very long, sleek car. It's full-on sort of, mid-level mafioso in the 70s in Italy. You can imagine it in a bunch of cool films, and it still looks cool on the street, the one I drove.
Like if they filmed Vanishing Point in Italy, I feel like that's the car they would have used.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be like opening scene on a James Bond movie. Yeah. You kind of feel when you get in it that you step back in time. And that was what I loved about it, the experience. The older I get, it's less about the speed and going as quick from A to B. I still like that. That's the rush, the need for speed we all have. But along the way, I'm starting to learn variety and experience that are purely analog in this digital age of hybrid and electric cars. Any of these old cars will stay on the Lamborghini Espada, but it's the smell, it's the mechanical sound, it's the engagement, it's the awkwardness of having to adapt to a weird seating position and weird pedals. And, it doesn't come easier to get speed out of that car. So it's a bit of a challenge. And it's a classic case of when you're going fast, or you sound like you're going fast, or you feel like you're going fast, you're not actually going that fast. But yeah, it's still an engaging thing.
Yeah, that's where it's at, though. It's always the whole slow car fast theory, right? I mean,
yeah.
My buddy has a 70 T, and I love just absolutely wringing that thing's neck. I love that car. Not as much as I love my car with a 3.2 short stroke, of course, but I do love the experience that the car provides. Anything slow, even like a Rabbit GTI, 90 horsepower, amazing car. Amazing.
There's something great about keeping your foot planted and knowing you've got everything out of the car.
Right.
That's a problem with the new GT3s. Too much of a race car for the street where you never feel like you actually got anywhere close to the max performance of the car.
Yeah.
That's where, you said it, slow car fast syndrome really makes you, it's a rewarding thing when you go, okay, I kept my foot planted. There was nothing more. The pedal was to the metal. That was it. I was just steering where it was going.
So
that doesn't happen very often in a modern car. Say again?
Where do you think things go from here with the air-cooled 911? And it just seems so wild right now that can it stay this way?
Truth be told, I don't really follow the market. I'm not fully aware of what stupid prices things are going on Bring a Trailer, unless it just happens to be my buddy who either bought or sold something that, is twice the price I thought it should be. But I'm not really following really what's going on. Whether, like 10 years ago, I was really clued into, okay, my thing was short wheelbase cars, 64 through 68. I had them all, whether it was a 64 or sport purpose built or an S, and they became a big thing to have and got really expensive. Then it was long hoods up to 73. Then for me, it was turbos. So I don't know. I think maybe the novelty has cooled a little bit on the cool factor of air-cooled, maybe a little bit. And it seems to be like, all these hotheads have got to have, I hate to keep bragging on the GT3, but that just keeps coming up more than I hear people saying, I have to have a 67S, or I have to have a 64 or 65, or I have to have a 75 turbo. These are the things that I lusted after only because they were the beginning of every era. We all love the 911. So for me, I had to start with, I got to have one of the first 232 built, and that was a 64. So I'm a goal-orientated collector. Same with the turbo. First year of turbocharging was 75. So I had to have a 75, and I chased it. But there were certain things that I never lusted after. Like to a lot of people, the holy grail of air-cooled is a 73 RS Carrera, right? Porsche made 1,580 of them. It's not like the rare or they only made 20. Right. And everyone separate of the VIN number, myself included, has duplicated their version in a replica mode for a fraction of the price. So to me, I never lusted after a 73 RS Carrera. It was a little bit like what I call the Cobra kit syndrome of when you see a real Shelby Cobra, the first thing you think of is it a kit? And to me, I put the 73 RS Carrera in the same category.
The answer is almost always yes.
Yeah. And it's similar with a 73 RS Carrera.
Yeah.
Put on some flares, put on a ducktail, put on an S fiberglass bumper, put it on some 7s and 8s, and hey, put a Carrera stripe on it. It's hard to tell the difference.
It is. Absolutely. I think the thing that makes it hard for me is I don't really care how much my car is worth. I'm not going to sell my car. I'm just not. The experience is too special to me, and it isn't replicable anywhere else. What the difficulty comes in is the way that I drive my car. I've put 70, 80,000 miles on that car in 10 years. I really drive the shit out of it.
That's pretty good.
And maintaining that car is becoming increasingly difficult. I did the whole front pan on the car.
Yeah, myself, I saw it.
And the fenders were $2,500 each.
Wow. That's
and
a lot
I
of
just
money.
go, man, it gets really, really hard for a guy like me to continue to drive the car the way I want to drive the car. When I'm driving on the Moki Dugway, drifting around the thing, and I'm listening to the engine, I don't want to go, oh my God, that's right. That motor was like this much money. I don't want to have those thoughts and have those feelings. So it becomes hard to imagine using it the way I want. And I'm hoping I'll be able to push through it. I think I probably will find a way, but it definitely will enter my mind.
I get it. I mean, for me, having got into it 30 years ago, and I'm coming into it I bought stuff that ran for $2,500, $3 grand, $4 grand, $5 grand. So I amassed all these parts. So, when I hear $2,500 for an A fender and you need a pair, that's $5 grand. I mean, I bought cars for less than that. So for me, it's ridiculous, it's nuts. For me, I was lucky that I was able to keep a lot of the parts. And as we know, everything's interchangeable. All the way from the 64 up to the 993, almost everything's interchangeable with a few modifications. I put manual window and crank windows in the door from a 65 912 that dropped right into my 1990 964. And 964s were always electric windows. But the point I'm going to make here is Porsche had never changed the interior skin pressing of the door panel.
Yep.
So the frame dropped right in, and the 4 mounting holes that was already threaded in the door panel from a 1990 964, which was never manual.
Right.
So everything's interchangeable, which made performance and hot rodding and everything we love about 911s up to 993 the go-to car, right? Because you could pick them up inexpensively at the time. And if you wanted to put a 3.6 motor in your 64 911, the same 4 bolt holes that hold the 2-liter in are the same mounting spots for the 3.6 motor.
Yeah, that's really
so that's
special.
what made them all great. That's also, in the end, what made it difficult to find one that was original that hadn't been upgraded if you were a purist that wanted your numbers matching experience. So I don't know. For me, like I say, I haven't bought an air-cooled 911 in a long time, and I haven't sold one in a long time. And I kept all the ones that I really, really connected with, because no two are ever the same, because obviously over 40, 50 years, as you know, a lot of things have been tweaked, modified, put back together. So some rattle more than others, and some just feel better than others. No two are ever the same. So that's great about the variety element to it as well. It's not like modern cars where you can get in 10 of them and they're all the same. Experience and sound, and they do the same thing, become more of an appliance, loses that analog experience.
This is a conversation that you can't really, I'm trying to think of other cars as we kind of talk about, like, the car being able to be changed this much over this many years, the windows fit this, the motor's bolt in. I can't, over the course of 30, 40 years, I don't really think there's anything else.
Yeah, I mean, up to the 993, which is what, 5th generation, depends how you count them. You look at the 2 of the longest running production cars, the Corvette, which is now, 50, is 70 years old. Yeah. You look at the Mustang, which is 60 years old, and you look at the 911, which is 60 years old. Those 3 are all icons. They've all been in constant production for 60 to 70 years. They're all instantly recognizable as the shape. But the first 30 years of Mustang and Corvette production, nothing's interchangeable from a C2 to a C3.
Yeah. It's all over the
place. Nothing. Whereas the 911, like I said, the first 30 years, everything's real similar. Like the 964 may be the first 911 with coilovers, and we know it's 80% different underneath, but the silhouette's the same, and certain things like dropping in doors and door frames. And I even put a short wheelbase 65 non-louvered heat element glass, and it dropped right in as well with a 65 rubber seal into a 1999 64. So it's easy to retrofit that type of thing to it. You couldn't put a 53 door into a 83 Corvette and it would fit, but you could do it with a 911.
Yeah, that might be something that touches on why things are the way that they are. I mean, there's a lot of different.
Porsche definitely got that right. Unlike this design study that came out today for the 357, which just doesn't look right. It's kind of like they got the 911 right.
Porsche 357. Oh no.
There you go. You haven't seen it yet?
No, I've been doing stuff. What is it supposed to even be?
I think Porsche teamed up with Chrysler and Nissan and came up with a concept which was a throwback / modern homage interpretation of a 356. But shouldn't the concept look great and then it gets watered down into production? Not like, well, the concept doesn't really proportionately look right and the back's too chopped and the roof line's wrong and the front just doesn't go with it. But you go, this is Porsche and it's a concept. How is this not looking awesome?
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, it doesn't really exist. It only exists in digital space, which is.
But still, in digital space, isn't that the perfect place to make something epic and perfect?
Oh, for sure. But it's also maybe because it's not tangible, it doesn't hold as much weight. I don't know. I see all this stuff being designed in the digital space. And I'm like, oh, well, that's not real. That'll never be real. It's kind of a bummer. A lot of manufacturers are doing that now.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, dude, your opinion and thoughts I'm very grateful for them. I'm thankful that you spent time with me today. And, I'll be out my motor will be done in a month or two. I hope.
Who's building that?
Marco's
okay, all right,
it's
cool.
in good hands.
And what are you building again?
Oh, it's actually another three. They repaired the case, and it's a 3.2 short stroke, but it's got like powder rods and like titanium retainers. All the heads have all been done, so now it's even much bigger cams. So it's more than it was before. So that
are you going to drive it back?
Yeah, I'm probably going to leave it out there for a little bit because I can't. It's all salt here.
Yeah,
everything is covered in salt, so I can't drive it home. So I'll probably.
I got a question for you. Yeah. What are your thoughts? This is a big year for Porsche. We know 75th anniversary. How are you feeling about 75 years of Porsche and where Porsche is going and the direction? And give me your thoughts.
Jeez. I think Porsche, like most manufacturers, are in a very difficult position where they're using their heritage to bolster the new things that are coming, even though the heritage doesn't really tie to what they're doing anymore.
Right.
So
marketing thing.
Yeah, it's hard. I feel for them. And Dodge did the same thing with the car that they came out with. It's called I don't remember what it was called, but their electric thing that they're doing. And I saw now that the 911 hybrid is coming out. And I remember like a year ago, I read a press release where the 911 will always be this. And now they're doing this hybrid thing. And they're slapping turbo badges on everything, and it's electric, and it's all this stuff that they're just building off of the heritage. Yeah. But the heritage doesn't really exist in the new cars. It only exists in name and concept only. And I feel for them. What else are they supposed to do?
One of my pet peeves, other than GT3 RS paint to sample owners, is the Taycan, the turbo Taycan. Mm-hmm. Real turbos have turbos, right? Like a 3-liter, 75 930 turbo, forced induction, internal combustion engine, turbocharging technology. We know what that does. What does that do on an electric car? It's like putting a turbo badge on a hairdryer. I think what has changed is the marketing department, to attract buyers, has just turned things turbo, because turbo always represented the pinnacle of performance in a model range.
It was
like
the
930 turbo.
The turbo was
the most special 911 you could get.
Yeah, the turbo was the future. Yeah, it was great. Back in the 70s and 80s, turbo was the future. Everything was forward-looking with turbo. Now it seems like
here's my big beef. It's like a turbo badge on a Taycan that has no turbo. But then every 911 other than a GT3 is actually turbocharged. But they don't call the entry-level Carrera a turbo. It's just a Carrera, even though it's a turbo, non-turbo, right? Mm-hmm. So they're mismarketing like the entry-level car by not calling it a turbo. And then on the opposite end, they're putting a turbo badge on something that didn't even have a turbocharger on it.
What are they supposed to do?
And no one's saying, hey, this is ridiculous.
Are they just supposed to die? Like, what are they supposed to do? All they have, like, if you look at 911, it's not like they built a whole lot of cars in their heritage. I mean, they did, but they were all 911s and turbos and stuff like that. And if they're going to get everybody now to get on the bandwagon with everything they're doing for the future, they can't just go, okay, well, we've based our entire company off of this one chassis for 60 years.
You got to remember, though, like the 911 today is only 10% of Porsche's sales.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's still nobody would be buying Macans and Cayennes if the turbo didn't exist.
Right. You also got to ask, so does the average Macan owner actually know what a 911 turbo is?
Probably not, but that's where the prestige comes from. The prestige is built on the shoulders of the heritage of everything that came before.
Of course.
Even they have nothing left to they don't have anything else to build upon. It's all there is. That is Porsche. What are they supposed to do? I don't blame them. I just think it's sad.
Yeah, I get it. Well, I appreciate your feedback on that.
Yeah, man.
And hey, thanks for having me on to voice my opinion. I appreciate your time, and as always, good chatting with you.
Yeah, well, maybe we come out and get some coffee in a couple months. I'll come say hello.
Stay caffeinated and stay lubricated, my friend.
Oh my God, I will try.
Take it easy.
See ya.
See ya.
All right. Many thanks to Magnus for continuing to come on the podcast and support us and be part of what we do.
Absolutely.
Guy has really grown on me over the last decade.
He's grown on you.
Yes, I mean, before you don't know anybody, you kind of just, okay, that's the guy that made 9/11 expensive. Fuck that guy. But once you guys know, he's a great guy.
You're right. Yeah.
He's truly
ironic that this is where you're interviewing him.
Yes, it's true. It's true. I just think his perspective, and of course the Spada perspective, but more importantly, his perspective on this is invaluable. And I say that recording this segment without even talking to him yet.
Yeah.
I just know he's gonna have eloquence and
insight.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so I have a song to play with this next car.
Ooh, is this like some music bed, some mood?
No, it's not music bed. This is a theme song.
Oh, okay.
All right, let's get the vibe going.
I'm thinking it's 80s, Chris.
Yeah, well, we've already got a vibe, right?
Yeah, I mean, got the vibe right here.
The vibrating in this spot, by the way, 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah,
V12.
I agree.
I mean, come on.
Yes.
What is the vibrating? Hold on. What's the vibrating of a 911?
Yeah, we didn't really talk about that. I think I asked that last week.
I hesitate. I think we should end the series with what that is. Are you okay with that?
I am, but we're gonna have to think about that and clarify. Like, are we talking specifically your car? We should also go back and make sure you didn't say a vibrating for the 911.
We didn't.
Okay.
I know we didn't. We could do both. We could do my car, which is cooler than every other air-cooled 911, and then we can talk about regular ones too. Regular ones.
I swear we talked about this because you gave a vibrating for mine and yours.
Did we?
I
think
almost
we did.
positive because you were like, yours is less by, I forget how much less, and I was like, really?
Okay, well, whatever. Okay, let's move on. I don't know what am I doing?
I do not know.
This is all for fun. I'm just having fun.
I'm glad you're having fun.
If we vibrated together with that other thing, it's fun.
That's okay. Yeah, we did vibrate. Okay, so
all right. Speaking of vibrating,
yes,
every respectable '80s teenage boy either had this, or a Countach, or a 930 on it postered on his wall.
Okay.
Word has it that this poster sales alone are solely responsible for the raising of an entire Brazilian rainforest. The car is so cool that it is on IMDb as a character from a movie.
Okay.
Or from a TV show, which is what this theme song is from.
Oh, I don't know it.
Miami Vice.
Oh, yes.
This thing is so cool that Dr. Dre bought a white one so that he could have one from the TV show. It is so cool that it was the hero for a video game called Outrun in the 80s. Yep. It's an arcade hit, an overall legendary industry pioneering game. It's a game where you're a dude running from the cops, probably in Miami with a hot blonde girlfriend. How cool is that? What kind of vibe does that bring to the table? This car is unequivocally cool, and due to its styling, a cultural icon of the 80s. What does the 911 have? No Man's Land, a barely okay movie with a 911 Turbo with Gotti's on it. That movie sucks so bad that they didn't even release it on Blu-ray. You have to download it to get a widescreen version. The chase
is
scene,
that the only 911 movie? No. That's the 911 movie?
The chase scene is as overrated as the movie in that one. And it's only heralded as cool because other than Bad Boys, it is one of the only movies where 911 is the feature car. What is it?
This car?
Yeah, what is it?
This is the Ferrari Testarossa.
This is a Ferrari
Obviously.
Testarossa.
As soon as you say Miami Vice,
Jake,
you know.
Think about this for a second, okay?
Yeah. I'm talking posters on the wall. When did the F40 come out?
Late 80s, early 90s.
Okay, so later in this. Yes.
Later than the Testarossa. I just want you to
what?
In your mind.
Yeah. Just picture
a Testarossa.
It's just side strakes for days.
Picture a Testarossa.
Yeah, I got it.
Picture yourself in the Testarossa.
Oh, yeah.
Grabbing the steering wheel.
Okay.
How do you feel?
I feel pretty damn cool.
You feel really fucking cool.
Yeah.
You feel elite. Right?
You can afford one of these for a 911 price?
They're like $100,000 to $150,000.
Okay.
You can actually sell your 911 and own a Testarossa. That's how absurd things have gotten. That's so insane to me.
Why wouldn't we do that?
That's so insane to me.
Why wouldn't we do that? Why are we not in Testarossas right now?
I will tell you why I will never own a Testarossa over my car.
Oh.
Okay.
Then why are you talking this car up?
Because we're having fun.
Okay.
I love this car. You could sell, in terms of cool, a Testarossa is cooler than a 911.
Yeah.
Maybe we should, I'll save this. I'll save this for the end of the episode. We'll talk about some things that I want to talk about, okay?
Okay.
For now, let's just stick with the Testarossa.
Sit down.
And
We're going to have a talk later.
And you
We're going to have a talk later.
You're in it. You're sitting on a telephone book.
Okay.
So you can see over the dashboard.
Yeah, probably very low
and
seats.
You're in your
and not
Testarossa
power.
with 15.5-inch wheels.
Yeah.
Wait,
half inch?
Yeah, they had like super special tires.
Really?
It's so ridiculous.
Oh.
The Testarossa, dude. Imagine
tires.
imagine that car parked, or pulling up to the valet and getting out of that car.
It would have to be red for me. It would have to.
Red,
Yes.
absolutely red.
Right?
Red. This car is so fucking cool. This might be one of the, in terms of cool and vibe, this might be one of the coolest cars ever. I mean, I put it as, a Countach is really cool too, but a Lamborghini is not a Ferrari. Okay, I always see Lamborghinis as cars built by a guy with a tractor company. I can't get over it. I know that's
really.
I can't. I just can't. Okay, I love Lamborghinis, but compared to a Ferrari, okay. The Testarossa.
Maybe this is what you're going to talk about later, but like,
hold on. Just let me keep going.
Okay.
If I miss something, you can talk to me about
no,
it.
I think I know where you're going.
It's a simple mid-engine 4.9 liter flat 12 powered sports car.
Is it simple?
No, not at all.
You said simple.
I know, but it isn't.
Okay.
Which Porsche can you drive on the street with a flat 12?
Yeah, none of them.
None. So even Ferrari did flat engines cooler. The mass-produced Ferrari debuted at the 1984 Paris Auto Show. Over the years, Ferrari made 10,000 Testarossas. And though it was the first mass-produced Ferrari, 10,000 still makes it rarer than most air-cooled 911s by far.
Yeah, no, obviously. Okay, so this was considered their first mass-produced car.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. Vibrating.
Yes.
I have a 9.89 out of 10. I'm just going to give it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
10 out of 10 for era-defining Pininfarina panty-dropping styling. It's a cultural icon with a flat 12 engine. It's a fucking Ferrari. Honorable mention to the 348 too with the V8. You can get those for like 40, 50 grand now.
True. Yeah. But it's not the flat 12
No,
that
it's not.
is.
And I raced one in my
Testarossa.
car, and then I was faster in mine. So
What, the 348?
Yeah, my car is faster than a 348. So
Yeah.
if the Ferrari's not,
Yeah.
All right, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think of this?
I love it. There's something we haven't talked about with any of the cars though,
What's this?
and it's the perception of the person that drives it.
If I saw someone get out of a Ferrari, it depends on what they're wearing.
Okay.
Like I would look at.
Here's the problem.
Here's what I would do. Someone pulls up to valet the Ferrari. I'm the valet.
Yeah.
Okay, I used to valet, and I would do this.
Okay.
Someone would pull up a car. I would open the door, and I would immediately look at the person's watch, and I would look at their shoes.
Okay.
Not their clothes, their watch and their shoes. Because
Interesting.
even grubby rich dudes usually have a nice watch.
Yep.
Usually it's subdued, but if it's like some giant like Patek Philippe thing or some just like massive expensive watch, the guy's a douche.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you can
okay,
tell a
yes.
lot. Like today, I'm wearing a gold Timex. I love this watch a lot. This watch to me is just as cool as my Rolex.
I match my Seiko 5s to my vests.
Seiko 5s, fantastic watch.
Great watch.
Absolutely amazing.
Yep.
If you got over a Ferrari and you were wearing that, I would think you were cool.
I would think he doesn't actually own that Ferrari. If you're wearing a Seiko 5 and a Ferrari Testarossa.
I don't know. I own a $150,000 Porsche and I'm wearing an $8 Timex.
True.
You know, what the watch someone's wearing says a lot.
Well, that gets to my point though. I can't see a guy wearing a Seiko getting out of this car. It's always going to be the guy that has the Ferrari hat on. It's always going to be the guy, or he's got the cocaine white jacket who thinks he's still in 1984.
I don't know. I guess honestly, I've never seen anybody get out of one of these.
Yeah.
I've seen them parked around, but I've never seen the individual that owns one and drives one. And we are going to talk to someone that owns one here in a second.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said about you have to go to Ferrari meets then. If you're going to go to a thing, you don't want to go to a Ferrari
I would.
meet.
That's the last place I would go.
Right.
I would go anywhere but a Ferrari meet. I would show up at the Honda meet. I would show up at every meet except the Ferrari meet.
You said, you'd always have to be Ferrari over Lamborghini because Lamborghini's just the guy with the tractor trying to screw Ferrari. I kind of like Lamborghini. Well, ostentatious in its own separate way.
Yeah.
Like that's the baller car, right? Is the Lambo. But I feel like they're less pretentious than a Ferrari guy.
I think it's important to look at it in the lens of the 80s versus today.
Yeah.
So you're looking at it the lens of today where
Well, we're
Lamborghini's
talking
owned by
about the
Audi.
car you could have.
Yeah, but I try to take everything in the context of when it was built. Because otherwise you're just comparing apples to oranges. You want to compare apples to apples, right?
Yeah.
Countach, Testarossa, Right? I mean, as a car, the Testarossa is a far better car.
Yes.
The Countach is far more ostentatious.
Oh, big time.
You know, it's a terrible car.
Are they?
They're terrible. I haven't driven one, but everyone I talk to that has is like, yeah, it's not a good car.
Well, you can't see out of them.
But you drive it for the vibe.
Yeah.
Right? That's the reason.
I suppose.
All right. So let's talk to Mark, who owns one of these, and get his opinion. Maybe we can ask what kind of watch he has, and hopefully we didn't insult the guy here. We'll see how it goes. All right. We'll be right back. Hey, man. Thanks for coming on the podcast to talk Ferrari Testarossa with me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yes, no problem at all. I got your name from my friend Jason, who is from Rotorform and Wheel Pros, stuff like that. He said you're quite the character, and I think, you know, the lead up to this segment of you and I, which you haven't seen yet, nobody's seen yet, is how I think that owning a Testarossa, the best thing about it would be getting out of the Testarossa and people seeing you get out of the car and do whatever it is you're going to do. And that's it. Seems like that would be the best part about it. It's just the getting out and being like the guy that's getting out of it. What is it like to own one of these things?
I love it. You know, it's a 1985 Flying Mirror, so it's a European spec. And I actually ended up buying it twice. But nevertheless...
how does that work?
Well, oddly enough, I traded... so since it's on Porsche, right, I traded a 930, 1979, and my Testarossa for a Audi R8 GT4 race car about a year and a half ago. So I actually the Porsche and the Testarossa were in the deal. The guy called me probably 6 or 8 months ago on the Testarossa and said, hey, do you want to buy it back? I said, absolutely. Well, guess what? He sold it to me for the same price I traded it to him for. So I was instantly sitting on some equity in it. But I ran to the bank as fast as I could, wired him the money, and it's back in my garage.
Too bad he didn't have a Testarossa to drive to the bank. That seems like that would have been the way to do it.
I know. Yeah.
So what's the experience like?
Great cars.
What's the experience of owning one of these Testarossas like?
You know, they're obviously the Countach, the Diablo, they're all very, really iconic cars of the 80s. So driving around town, obviously you're going to get a lot of looks. You know, I think just from the Miami Vice perspective, I think that, you know, the white on the white is pretty desirable. But mine's red with tan, dog leg transmission. They are they're just super, super fun to drive and to be around. And they're highway cars. You know, these things on the highway are really, really nice.
That's not necessarily what you think of when you think of a Ferrari as a highway car.
It's a big body. It's long. It's wide. It's very wide. It's long. It is a highway car. To me, it is. I still drive it around town, but, you know, being in first gear and the longer gears, it kind of, if you're in traffic, it's a little bit of an issue to, you know, keep putting in the clutch all the time and moving up only 10 or 20 feet at a time.
So you say Countach and some of these other things. Do you own those as well, or have you owned like a Countach or Diablo or any of these other Italian cars?
So I've got about 40 to 45 cars in my collection, and I've currently got a Diablo. In fact, Jason just made a set of Rotorform wheels for it, and I'll be getting those tomorrow. Sent them out yesterday.
All right.
So, custom set, and I think Rotorform's going to do a video on it down in Miami next week.
Right on. Yeah, I guess everything's coming together with Sebring down there. It's everything's happening in Florida between Sebring and Daytona and everything else.
Correct. Yep. In fact, I just raced Sebring last weekend.
Right on. So, in terms of like what I feel like it would be to own and operate a Testarossa, you know, you say it's one of like 40 cars. What is the personality of that car compared to anything else? Is there anything unique about it that defines it as something special for you?
You know, it is. It's that iconic car. When you drive down the road, people know exactly what it is. They don't have to question it. They go, that's a Testarossa. And even pulling into the gas stations, older gentlemen, females, everybody of older age, younger age, they all pretty much know what it is. And it's just, you get a feeling when you drive it. It's a big car, but when you drive it, you're just like, I'm the king of the road. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, man. Do you also have an Outrun arcade machine in your basement? I feel like you have to.
I do not.
Come on, man. You got to get one of those. It's got to go. You got to just like put it right in the garage, right next to the car. Because the blonde chick with the dude in the car, plus Miami Vice was like that car just, I can't think of any other car from the 80s. Obviously, there's the 959 and the F40 came about, and there's all these other cars. But in terms of the 930, but that started earlier, so that doesn't even really count. But the Testarossa with like in terms of poster car with all the pop culture surrounding it, it's like the 80s car.
It is. It's a blast. It is. I like I said, I think the white on white. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, we got a little bit of delay. I'm sorry about that. What do you have a tape deck in that car? Is there a tape deck in there, or do you have a stereo?
So on the center dash, the radio is actually hidden. You have to lift up a lid, and the radio's behind it in the center. And mine's actually been changed out to a CD player prior to me getting it.
What CD is in there right now? What CD is always in that car?
I think Billy Idol, I think, is in there.
Billy Idol? I was going to say Billy Idol, maybe a little Skid Row or a little Duran Duran or something.
Yeah, I think I've got Billy Idol in there right now. So, but
that works.
Yeah, I wish it still had the tape deck.
Yeah, there's something especially about like when you're in an old car and like putting the tape in, it's like, and then you hit the buttons, and there's something.
And then you flip it. You got to flip it to play the other side.
You got to flip it.
Yep.
All right, dude. Man, I appreciate it. It was great getting your perspective on Testarossa ownership. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate all the legwork to get it done, and I hope you have a good one, man.
Awesome. Thanks. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Take care. All right. Next
on the list.
This car defined Great Britain on the world rally stage in its day.
So it's a Mini Cooper, finally.
In its day. It put the tent in the pants of millions of British kids in what was, aside from Group B, one of the best times for the World Rally Championship.
Okay, so
and
not
rallying
a Mini Cooper
in general. It's got a whale tail that actually looks like, unlike that of a rear spoiler of a 911, an actual whale tail. It looks exactly like when you are behind a crotch rocket and the thong is sticking out.
Oh, God.
It's exactly what this thing looks like. It's exactly what it looks like. This wing truly worked on this car. It was the first mass-produced car to produce both front and rear downforce. The Ford Escort Cosworth RS. Oh, I'm sorry. For the purists, the Ford Escort RS Cosworth is a rally version of the homologation. I have trouble with that word.
Homologation.
I'm always like homologation.
While you're stumbling, what I would love to point out is you talked about one of the first cars to actually produce downforce on the front and rear.
Yep.
What you have to realize is, sure, other cars created downforce, but what they're actually doing is just negating lift, right? Because a car naturally creates lift the way it's shaped.
Yep.
And so every downforce up until this was just creating, like negating that lift
Most
effect.
consumer cars still generate lift.
Correct. This, when you drive it, it's actually pushing down the suspension as you go faster.
Right. So most cars developed lift because it's all about aerodynamics in terms of fuel economy.
Correct.
Not performance.
Anyways, that was a good segue while you were stumbling over homologation special.
Homologation
special.
It was a homologation special of the 5th generation European Ford Escort.
Correct.
Which is legend. Every Ford Escort is fantastic.
That's where I'm going to stop you right there.
Why?
Every Escort
other than the one
Europe was good. Can I talk you through the Ford Escorts real quick?
You didn't like yours?
No, I did not.
Here's a hat tip, if you'd like. You can go watch Jake complain about Ford Escorts on our YouTube thing, which is the, what was it, YouTube episode?
That was...
feature film.
Yeah, the best of the worst.
Best of the worst.
Yes.
He drives a Ford Escort. I drive a Ford Pinto. We take him to the track. It's a good time.
It was interesting. Okay, here's the thing about the Ford Escorts, though. So the first-gen Ford Escort... Available.
I will tell you right now.
What's that?
When I think Ford Escort, I never think about the American one. It doesn't cross my mind as
but
like a European
many people
enthusiast.
living here do.
That's true.
I know.
That's true.
The first gen Ford Escort was amazing. It looks cool. It's got the 3-box design, but it has a sloped roof.
Yeah.
And it was the Lotus Ford.
Yeah.
Also did one. Okay, so that's awesome. Front engine, rear-wheel drive. The second gen, front engine, rear-wheel drive. The third generation, front engine, rear-wheel drive.
Yeah.
Fourth gen, world car, front engine, front drive.
Yeah.
That's the one that
The
you
world
got
car, that's
me. That was terrible.
And it was an automatic too.
It was so bad, but it was the HO, Chris.
It was the high output.
Yes. The 5th generation, that
was
came
the
along.
only car I've sold on Bring a Trailer, by the way.
Okay.
Just so you know, I have some Bring a Trailer experience.
Yep. Oh, God. Yeah, the 5th gen came out in 1990. Fun fact, it was also sold by Volkswagen in South America as the Pointer.
Really?
Correct.
Weird.
Yes, it was. It was also the Volkswagen Logos in also South America. So they sold it as 2 different cars. Here's what's interesting about this car, though. Did you know that the RS Cosworth, the Escort RS Cosworth, is not an Escort chassis?
What is it?
It is based on the Sierra Cosworth.
Yes.
So it's a Sierra.
Yes. The Ford
Not an
Sierra
Escort.
Yes.
Because it's a bigger car and they already had a bigger engine in the bay.
Yep.
So what they did is they took Escort body panels and put it on the Cosworth, or I'm sorry, the Sierra, and that is how they made it basically a super fast version of the Escort, is because it's actually a Sierra under all of it.
That's interesting. I did not know that.
Yes.
The engine you're talking about is the YBT.
I believe so, yes. I didn't go that deep in it, but it's not an Escort under all of the body panels.
So this not an Escort was designed to qualify as a Group A car for the World Rally Championship.
Yes.
In which it competed between 1993 and 1998. It was available as a road car from 92 until 96 in very limited numbers.
Yes.
The first 2,500 cars made before the 1st of January are, in fact, homologation special versions. It was instantly recognizable due to the
massive wing.
The massive, no.
Whale
this
tail.
is a whale tail.
Whale tail. Okay.
It is. It's actually a whale tail. Porsche's whale tail, not a whale tail. Just a big, fat, ugly. I think they're ugly.
I hate the term whale tail in general because what is it? It's either a wing or it's a spoiler, which there is a difference. Do you know the distinction?
What is it?
Between a wing and a spoiler? A spoiler literally just spoils the lift created on the natural car shape, right? What I'm talking about, the roof, right? So a spoiler.
Give me an example of a car that has a spoiler.
A spoiler is any sedan where it's just something kind of added on that looks like a little,
little lip on a back of an M5.
Yes, that is a spoiler.
Got it.
Even technically, the lauded 911 Carrera RS with the ducktail, that is a spoiler.
Okay.
Because think about it. It's not a wing. There's no air going underneath it to create downforce, lift in the opposite direction.
Yep.
That is what a wing is. So anything that has raised side strakes and is an actual winged surface that creates downward lift, aka downforce, that's a wing versus a spoiler, which is just trying to counteract the lift generated by the natural shape of the car.
All right. If you accidentally skip that segment, you can hit back 30 seconds and you can listen to it again. All right. So this thing had the YBT, like I mentioned, which was a highly tunable turbocharged 2-liter. Had 224 horsepower in standard trim, but tuning companies have achieved power outputs of over 1,000.
Wow.
The entire
2-liter?
Wow. I bet that thing's like a 2.1 or a 2.2. You know, if it's I bet they've done some serious work to it to get it there.
Yeah, that's
the entire
ridiculous.
reason this car existed was to win WRC. That's it. That was its sole purpose.
Yeah.
It didn't, but it did win 8 events between 1993 and 1996 as a Group A car.
So
and
it is
more
a failed car.
In the World Rally Championship 97-98 before it was replaced by the Focus RS WRC, which as a car is not even close to as cool.
The what car?
The Ford Focus.
Yes, no, I agree.
WRC, the Ford Focus RS WRC.
I agree.
Boring.
Yes,
100%. That's the car that I was always I was in dirt or something like that, and you'd have to use that car for a little bit, and I always felt like I was driving some dorky secretary admin assistant's car through the dirt. That's lame. Yes. Absolutely lame. Not a car. The RS was not built to win rallies. The Ford Focus was built to sell at dealerships for $4.
Oh, correct. Yeah. Yes.
Totally different inception and reason for a car.
It is interesting.
Can you think of any cars that are designed today that are is anything homologated anymore?
No.
There isn't anything, is there? We need to talk about that sometime.
Well,
that's how so many of these special cars were created.
Right, they're homologation specials to enter into racing series.
The Lancia Stratos,
all of them.
the Urquattro, all these cars that were homologated.
Right. So
Does
is there
that
any
happen
car
anymore?
designed today specifically to homologated into a racing? Well, here's what's interesting. So like this car is based off of a production car.
Yes.
It's not like they made the Escort just to go with rally racing. Some could be argued. But regardless, what you're talking about is a specific model version that was created just for homologation purposes to get into rally racing.
Yes. Instead of just taking, so you would have to, the whole point was you're taking a car for the road and racing it.
Mm-hmm.
And they say you have to be able to make this many of them.
Right.
So that's what homologation is. You have to make this many of them.
Yes.
Which led us to like the secretary cars and all these different things, you know, that happen, that manufacturers have like skirted the rules to like make enough of these. But obviously Ford was like, well,
I think
why don't we just, this Ford Escort's pretty cool. We could just run this instead. And then you've got this little ming, 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 ming. It's not a cool car.
Yeah, so two things. I think the latest vehicle I can think of that had some sort of homologation special, I want to say one of the Mitsubishi Evos had a homologation version of it. Like the Evo 8 or 9 had some sort of...
Like the MR or something?
Nah, the MR was just a trim level that was stripped down. But I want to say it was like a Japanese-only thing that was maybe a homologation special. I'm not a big JDM car guy, so I apologize. However... You're talking about the Escorts and the WRC, not Escorts, the Focus. Focus. There's one cool thing about the Focus that I'm going to do a mini history story on.
They go at least 30, 40,000 miles without changing their oil. Jesse.
Oh, God.
My wife, when I first met her, had a Ford Focus. Drove it
just
28,000 miles, never changed the oil. I'm like, did you ever change the oil?
Add or check oil?
Never.
Wow. That's actually a testament to reliability.
It is.
No, what I was going to say is talking about WRC, what they did is it was a highly turbocharged engine running a bunch of boost, but they had a ton of lag. So rather than anti-lag or maybe in addition to anti-lag, they had a giant air compressor in the back. It was an air tank behind the rear bumper that they run boost through and be able to close a valve. And then when it's off boost, they'd open up this compressed tank.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a cool fact about the Focus.
That's
WRC.
like a turbocharging capacitor.
Yes.
Is basically what that is.
You're right,
That's pretty rad. All right, so we have one of the owners. His name's Greg Keysar. I've been jealous of his yellow Escort for a very long time. So I'm hoping this
is he based here in the States?
Yes, he is. I'm hoping that this will butter him up enough for me to drive it someday.
Yeah, absolutely.
With that.
What are these? What are these worth? What can you get?
They're
these
like
for?
40 to 60 grand. 70, really nice one, maybe 80,
really?
60, 50. Yeah.
That's affordable on this list.
Yes, it is. It is very affordable on this. So is the next car. But for now, let's talk to Greg. Mr. Greg, how do you say your last name? How do you say that?
Keysar, like, do you know where my keys are?
I wish I knew where your keys were. Dude, the object of my lust, the object of my desire, the one car that I would most likely absolutely trade my 911 for is yours. You own it.
I might take you up on that.
Don't put your don't. Well, I think you know what might be fun is if I were to somehow next time, at least when I'm out. You're on East Coast, right? Somewhere.
Yeah, I'm in the DC area.
Okay. Well, hey, dude, my family's there. I'm in Annapolis.
Oh, yeah?
I'm a couple times a year.
Oh, really?
Usually not with the 911 because I can't.
I'm an hour south of.
Okay.
I'm an hour south of Annapolis. My sister lives in Annapolis.
Easy. Well,
so yeah, definitely, man.
Usually I have a Golf R. Usually there's another car out there that fits a family, so that's not probably a good trade. But I would love to experience your car. Tell me a little bit about it and how you obtained this thing, and why did you go through the effort to buy a car that's definitely not easy to buy?
So like I nerd out on homologation specials. That's my true passion. I love the engineering that goes into these cars, and my day job is I work in engineering and production, and we build aircraft, etc. And so I'm around that all the time, and I love the ingenuity that's involved in it. And so as a car guy, I've always loved rallying, and I've always loved racing, etc. And so when I discovered homologation specials, it became like a passion of mine. So I've owned a few. I owned a 1600 HF Fulvia.
Okay.
I owned. I have a Lotus Cortina, a 66 Lotus Cortina, and some could even argue in some ways the Porsche could potentially be homologation specials in some way. Maybe.
I don't not in the classic sense of what we're talking about with your car.
Correct. But anyway, I have an 83 SC. But so anyway, I sold the Fulvia and I was craving something from the 90s, and whenever I buy a car and sell a car, it's got to be a homologation special in some way, or a derivative of a homologated car, right?
Okay.
So I got on the look at, and I've always wanted a Cosworth, and I've never seen one. And I'm an automotive photographer like you, so I've been in tons and tons of collections. I've shot hundreds and hundreds of cars, never shot a Cosworth, and I've never seen one in a collection. So I went on the hunt. I had a couple cars inspected. One fell through, and then had another one inspected out in the Pacific Northwest, and it just wasn't the car for me. For me, the Cosworth, it's just the body design and everything. It's very outlandish and it's very bold. And so the car out in Pacific Northwest was just like dentist silver. And it didn't work for me, right? It needed to be something more brilliant, something more eye-popping, et cetera, right? So weeks went by, and I actually started looking at Euro import E36 M3s, and almost bought a E36 M3. And then
that doesn't really fall in the homologation tent.
Well, I was looking at E36 M3 GTs.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, it does. But
unexpected twist, but okay.
Yeah. So anyway, so I through friends of a friend, et cetera, somebody was like, "Hey man, you should reach out through Rob Guittardo out in Canada." And I don't know if you know Phil. I always mess his name up. Phil Tomodano or whatever. He's Mr. Enthusiast, whatever, on Instagram.
Yeah, no.
But he lives in New York City. He's got a huge collection of Group B cars, or had. He sold them all. But he had just bought a motorsport Cosworth from Rob. And my buddy was like, pretty sure Rob's got another one. So I found a video of Rob driving a Cosworth on YouTube. And somebody had asked him a question in the comments, and there was his email address as a response to this guy. So it's like, let me email this dude. So I emailed him, and he called me.
Okay.
And by the end of that conversation, I had bought the car.
Wow.
So he had a 1996 zinc yellow Cosworth. So they only made 10 in yellow. And it's a true zinc yellow Cosworth car. And so we negotiated price a little bit, agreed on it, had the car picked up and delivered. And when it was set down in front of my house, I had never seen a Cosworth in person until that moment.
Really? That's a leap of faith.
Yeah.
That's a leap of faith right there.
Yeah, I didn't have the car inspected or anything. He just sent me pictures, and I just kind of, knowing other people that know him, I kind of put some stock into that and just went on a leap of blind faith and bought the car.
Yeah, it's kind of those things that happen. That's like, well, you want it really bad, so that definitely influences, or it's almost like being drunk with desire when it comes to buying some car sight unseen. You're drunk with desire and you just do it anyway.
Exactly. That definitely has a lot to do with it. I just wanted it. I wanted it so bad. And I still want an E36 M3 GT. Like, that is a car that is a box I have to check.
Yeah.
But the Cosworth was higher on the list. It was a car that I really wanted and I wanted to experience.
So what was the experience like? You get it, so they're dropping it off in front of your house. You're watching. It's like beep 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 beep, and the guy drives. So you're going. You get in it in the first time. What are you thinking? Like, what is this experience like? Did it meet your expectations?
It's actually a pretty funny story. I get the car. I drive it back to the house, and I'm just over the moon over it, right? And just going over the car, break out the paint meter, checking everything, make sure I didn't get ripped off. Going over the car, and then a buddy of mine is like a huge Ford guy, and so I just sent him a text message with a picture of the video or a picture of the car, and Randy texted me back. He's like, "I'm on my way."
What kind of Ford guy are we talking about here? I mean, that guy could mean a few different things.
He's a Mustang guy.
Okay.
So we won't hold it against him, but he's a good guy. Anyway, he came by, and so we went out for a test drive, and within the first quarter mile of the test drive, I'd blown the coolant line off the car. So that pretty much set that wheel in motion for the next year and a half of dealing with coolant issues, reliability issues with the car. It took about a year to sort the car out.
Was it something that had just sat a lot with this other guy? Like, he didn't really drive it?
Yeah, Rob imported it from Finland, and then he owned it for like a year, and it was very clear that he just didn't drive the car. And nothing against Rob. Like, Rob's a good guy. And it was just stuff that had been sitting for a long time. The car sat. And so I cleaned it up and just went to town on it. I put a new exhaust on it because the exhaust was rusted on. I mean, the car came from Finland.
Yeah.
So you're going to experience stuff like that. And then the car had like these stickers on the side of it that I had to do a Google search on. It ended up being a Finnish company that does undercoatings for rust prevention. So it had like 4 of these stickers on the car, which means it had it done at least 4 times.
Right.
So the fuel pump went bad on it. So it took me about a day and a half just to drop the tank in it. Because it had
just so much gunk.
This rust prevention stuff over everything.
All that is seems like rust retention than rust prevention. I've never seen that stuff do a damn thing.
So what I found out about the car, though, is that Rob had mentioned that it had some Wolf stickers and stuff on it. So
what is Wolf?
So good question. So Walter Wolf was an entrepreneur from Germany, but he owned a Formula One team back in the 70s, and he owned a series of dealerships in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And forgive me, if I get this wrong or not, but from what my basic understanding is he owned 4 dealerships in Germany and started racing the RS 500s and was racing against Ford and beating Ford. So Ford brought him on to build their engines, and so he started competing as a factory Ford car. And then when the Sapphires came out, he continued that. And then when the Escort Kazis came out, he developed road performance packages for racing, where everybody else was focused on rally, right? And so kind of like how you can go to a Ford dealership now and buy like a Roush Mustang or something. He had developed these parts, and Ford had signed off on them and would warranty the car. If you bought the car from Wolf, you could then modify the car via a list a la carte, right?
Right. Yeah, the approved stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it had stuff that you could like. It had another lip that you could put on the rear ducktail. He had wheels that you could choose, AP Racing brakes.
So you got to call it a whale tail. It's the only car with a whale tail that actually looks like one. It's the only car.
It's got a whale tail. It's got a whale tail, and it's got a ducktail.
That's true. It does have the little.
Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. The lower
Gotcha.
It has an extension, a carbon fiber extension that you can put on that. My car doesn't have it, but it was one of the things that you could buy from Wolf and put on there.
So what does your car have done?
So mine's a 1996, which is technically it's a small turbo car. They call it a slick top small turbo car. However, from new is my assumption, because I technically don't have the documentation to prove it, but it has a full ECU swap and a big turbo swap on it by Wolf. And so it screams. It's fast, but it's definitely not a T25. It's got the T34 on it. That's all been verified. I even pulled the ECU out and sent it to some people that are in the know.
Yeah.
and it's got wolf stickers on the ECU, and it's got the Magneti Marelli ECU, which it should not have. It should have the Ford ICEVV or whatever ECU that was in all the late 90s Ford stuff. And it doesn't have that. It's got the Magneti Marelli ECU.
So let's talk a little bit about the driving experience with that, all that tuning and stuff like that when it comes to, so you've got an SC, which is one of the reasons why I thought it'd be cool to talk, because you have like direct knowledge of comparison.
Yeah.
What would you choose
my SC
if you had to choose between the two cars?
You're not going to like this answer. I'd choose the Porsche all day long.
No problem. Tell me why. I'm curious. No, that's okay. That's all right.
But just because the SC, I've owned it for so long, and it's not stock at all. It is completely set up to my liking. It's corner balanced to my liking. It's aligned to my liking. I mean, it's basically like a PCA spec suspension on it.
Why don't you just take the Cosworth and do all those things and to your liking? And why have you chosen the 911 to do all that stuff too, and not done it to the other one?
Because I've owned it for 10 years and I've had the time to do it, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing, but the other thing, like, it's just a very different experience. Like, the Lotus, I had the Lotus Cortina, and I had the 1600 HF Fulvia. They were both 1600 cc motors. They were both roughly within 200 pounds of each other, and one was rear wheel drive, one was front wheel drive. Mm-hmm. And they both were carbureted, et cetera, et cetera. And they were, one could say they were very similar, but they were completely polar opposite driving experiences. And that's what I loved about that, was the juxtaposition of the driving experience, right? And so that's what I like about Porsche and the Kazi, is they're just so different.
Yeah.
But the Porsche for me is just more rewarding. However, it's not to slight the Cosworth. The Cosworth is mental. It's really fast. For a 90s car, it's fast.
Yeah.
And the brakes on it's got 14-inch rotors with AP racing brakes on it, and it can outbrake any of my cars, and it's incredible. And it actually handles very well. It's very supple. Well, it was before I put the coilovers on it. But I put a set of gas coilers on it, and I hate them. I'm going to throw them in the trash. So
it sounds like you're a lot like me. Like my 911 is kind of my forever car, and then I have these other things that I cycle through on the side to have all the different experiences I want to have. But then for some reason, it always does kind of come back to the 911 for me.
100%. Yeah. The I've driven a lot of cars, and I have never had an experience like the 911. It just makes me smile. And all these other cars make me smile, but not like the Porsche does. But
can you pinpoint what it is, or is it just too enigmatic for that?
It's hard to say. It's the total package, right? Like, it's an SC, so it's an early car.
Yeah, like car. That stuff aside, though, you're talking about like an emotional response, is what it sounds like.
I'm getting to that, right?
Okay.
Right? Like, so it's fully, it's all manual. There's no ABS brakes in it. There's no power steering in it, right? It's just you and the car, and it's doing exactly what you tell it to do at any given point.
Yeah, but the Fulvia would be the same way, right?
Or anything.
I've driven a Fulvia.
The Fulvia would be the Fulvia was like an angry little Italian. Have you driven a 1600 HF? They're very different.
I drove whichever one I drove was like the lightweight version. There's like a lightweight something special version. I don't know enough about them to know.
The Fanaloni?
I don't know. I'm not sure which it was.
Yeah. What did you think of it?
It was fun. It was slow. But it was a lot of fun to just absolutely wring its neck. It was.
Absolutely.
They're great,
and that's
little cars.
And that's the difference between the Lotus and the Fulvia is the Lotus, or I'm sorry, the Fulvia, for me, it was like an angry little Italian that just always wanted to fight. You know what I mean? Like, it was just wound up and just like, it just snap, and it wants to just go, right?
Yeah.
So it always wanted to be wound up, and it just always wanted to just be ripped on, which for me, that's, anybody who knows me knows that that's what I love. But the great thing about the Lotus is you can just drive around town in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you want to rip it, you just get it over 3,000 RPM and it comes to life and it flies. That car is, I'm probably going to sell that soon, and that'll be a tier when I sell that car. Like I do absolutely love the Lotus.
Well, whatever it takes to get that M3 GT.
Exactly.
All right, man, dude, it's been great. I really appreciate your input. I've thought about selling my car and buying a Cosworth many times. It sounds like your advice would be to not do that.
No, not sell your Porsche. Don't sell your Porsche. If you have the means to get one as a second car, 100%. It's a box you got to check. They're rad. They look incredible. You pull up to the gas station and nobody knows what it is.
Right.
So, I started a new job recently, and I drove the car into work for the first time, and I had one person walk in, ask me whose Fast and Furious car it was, and then I had 3 of the other car guys say, "Hey, cool Escort." So,
it's definitely something that I need to drive at some point. Maybe it'll be yours. I would love to trade keys with you someday, man.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're in the Maryland area, man, hit me up.
All right,
we'll drive it.
Thanks again, man.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
You bet. All right, Jake.
All right.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I've got a little bit of music.
So is this the last pick for this week?
Is it?
It is.
It is. It is. It is. Yes, it is the last pick for this week.
Okay.
And maybe we can recap or something. I don't know. I don't really care. All right, let's do this. Got to set the scene.
Oh, more vibe.
More vibe. I'm just gonna let you take this in for a second.
This is very dramatic.
Yes, it is. Well, this is a very dramatic vehicle.
I'm wondering how you're gonna top the previous 3.
Well, in my opinion, very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Jake.
Yeah.
Picture this.
Okay.
It's the late 80s.
Yeah.
At Porsche, sales are down.
Uh-oh.
Way down.
Yes.
Down. If you imagine what it would be like in the office, it probably is a lot like this. Everybody's running around frantic. They don't know what's going on.
Yep.
The 911 is archaic.
Yeah.
It's limping along.
Right.
Barely. I don't know if you know how bad things really were.
I probably don't. No.
I don't think anybody really does. So I'm going to give a few numbers.
Okay.
In 1988,
yes,
Porsche made just 31,000 cars, generating a paltry $13 million in profit, with well under a 1% margin.
Wow.
Sales in this era were down 90%.
Really?
At the time, BMW's Wolfgang Reitzel approached the Porsche family with an offer to buy the sports car company, but their asking price was $600 million. I tell you what, BMW,
nah,
sorry, $600.
That's a little too.
These things have been around for a long time. $600 is too much. $600 million was too high. Instead, which was a huge mistake in my opinion, they went with Rover instead.
Ooh.
Anyway, the 964 at this time.
I want to know how much they paid for Rover now in comparison.
Who knows?
Just
going into the 90s, the 964 exists. It is a tub of lard, and is soon to be followed up by the latest 911, tub of lard number 2, the 993.
You're offending people.
The 993 was a stopgap car. It was built to tide things over until the 996 could be developed.
Yeah.
This is a dark time for Porsche.
Yeah.
Their assembly lines were empty. Nobody was buying air-cooled 911s. With empty assembly lines, Porsche started to contract them and their labor out. All right, so we've set us the stage for the time period, right?
Okay.
If anything has to be cooler than an air-cooled 911, this is it. This is going to be difficult. Wow, that music stopped like that. It's perfect. Yeah, let's go. That's some drama.
Normally you would have added that after the fact.
I know, it's perfect.
Okay.
This is going to be difficult for you.
Why?
All right. I want you to think of a time Mercedes didn't have AMG. Imagine a time when the only things that existed at Mercedes were grandpa cars.
Yeah. I get it now. Yeah, not difficult for me. Got it. Okay.
AMG was a separate company until the late 90s.
Yeah.
My C43 AMG was the
built
first
by
That's the first car that was built in-house.
Oh,
AMG,
okay.
Mercedes.
Got it.
Owned it.
Yep.
Had it. In the late 80s, the Super Saloon cars were in full swing, as were the Super Saloon Wars. Now, we talked about the E28 M5.
Yes. Same
Kind of
era.
birthed the movement. M5. After the M5, Porsche was even designing something called the 989, which looks like it looks almost like a Panamera.
Yes.
But it's a 4-door. So this was their answer to the Super Saloon. Mercedes themselves did not have a Super Saloon, and Mercedes needed to do something fast. I posit to you something cooler than any Mercedes ever made at the time, possibly ever. This is a car considered by many to be the best saloon car ever made, the Mercedes-Benz 500E. Here's a quote from Michael Holscher, project manager developer at the time, head of project. He did stuff. Looking at the car today, it's almost impossible to believe that the design could be so perfect 30 years ago without CAD data. I have enormous respect for my colleagues in the body shop and especially their vision. In 1988, Porsche AG was awarded the development contract by Daimler-Benz AG in Say the word.
Oh, I'm not even on the document.
Untertürk. I don't know. A place in Germany. It's an outer district of Stuttgart.
Hold on.
Literally.
Untertürkenheim.
There you go. You can literally throw a rock from Porsche to Mercedes. They're very close. The technical specification laid down the requirements for, quote, design and experimental series development of the base type W124.
Okay, so this is a W124 sedan.
Yes.
Is this
and this
similar?
is where you're going to tell me that it's boring.
No, I'm just curious. I'm trying to wrap my head around this because honestly, I know nothing about Mercedes.
Okay, have you heard of the Hammer?
I've heard of the Hammer.
So
is this the Hammer?
The Hammer is like a variation of the W124 that came before this car. Okay, it was like 6-liter or something or other. The W124 was designed by Bruno Sacco, the man that designed pretty much everything at Mercedes. When Mercedes was at its absolute best, this car was a benchmark for the sedans to come. Now, I know this car seems boring, right? You look at this car, wow, how boring. It looks boring. But there was so much in this car that was very unique for the time that ended up influencing many, many cars from many manufacturers as time goes on. Flush headlights. Headlights that are flush with the bodywork. This wasn't something that really existed.
What year is this?
Late 80s.
Okay.
Integrated bumpers. So molded plastic bumpers that went with the car instead of having some diving board, teardrop rear end design. It's very subtle, but if you look at this car from above, it has a teardrop rear end. It
gets narrower at the very back.
It is one of the most aerodynamically perfect cars of all time.
I highly doubt that.
Legitimately.
It's a box.
Legitimately huge steps in aerodynamics on this car. 86% of the windshield is covered by the windshield wiper, which is awesome. It's that super
the weird articulating thing.
The one that goes it goes up and then comes down and then goes back out.
Yeah, because it's a single wiper.
Yeah,
but it does this weird. Yeah,
they had weird things like they had ribbed taillights so that you could see them in the snow or mud. It was super safe too, but that came at a cost. The frame rails were too narrow to drop in a V8.
Oh,
and they needed to.
Wait, then how did the Hammer do it?
Well, it's built by AMG. I don't know. We have to do an episode about that. I don't know.
Well, why aren't you picking the Hammer?
They're too expensive.
Oh, okay.
They needed to. Lexus was barreling in with the LS400. Okay, so you imagine the can we play the music again? Okay, so Lexus is playing this song in their commercial, right? And, and they've got the wine glasses sitting on the hood.
Winter sales event.
Do you remember that? The wine glasses on the hood of the car?
Yeah, because it was so smooth, right?
Mercedes was busy, really busy, and they just didn't have time to do anything.
What were they busy with?
Everything else. Everything that they're doing.
All of the things.
All the things. They were just busy. They didn't have time to make the W124 into the super saloon that it needed to be with the V8 that it needed to have.
Okay.
Guess who had time?
Well, obviously Porsche. We established that.
Porsche had lots of time.
Yeah, they are not
sucking
building cars
at the time.
Okay.
So Porsche widened the frame rails, reinforced it, widened the interior, and did the crash testing.
They widened the interior?
They widened the interior. because the rear transmission, the rear differential didn't fit anymore. So they became a 4-seater instead of a 5-seater.
Oh, interesting.
Enter the M119, 32-valve, 5-liter V8, which ended up being the same engine that's in my C43. This engine lasted a while. It's a big bore, short stroke, all aluminum masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece.
It had just taken first and third in a Sauber in the World Endurance Championship.
Oh, that's cool.
To hold all the power, they upgraded the suspension and the brakes on the 500E, which meant that it was wider, 2 inches wider, 2 inches of fender flare. And that's never a bad thing. Unless it doesn't fit down your assembly line anymore because it's too fat.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Know what production line it did fit down?
Porsche?
The 959.
No.
Okay, so this thing was 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds and a 14-second quarter mile, which is pretty damn good for its time in a saloon.
Right.
It decimated the E34 M5.
Okay.
Decimated it. It was 0 to 60 in like 7 seconds or something like that. It outbraked and outcornered it as well. To know, AMG did get a hold of these and build a few. It's the E60 AMG. It's the 6-liter V8, 380 horsepower, upgraded suspension.
Okay, I'm confused. Because
I know. I don't want to talk about the Hammer. Okay.
No. Is that what you're talking about?
No, it's a different car. The E60 AMG is
no, but what I'm confused about right now is like, okay, so Porsche was contracted by Mercedes to build.
Do you know what AMG did? Here's what AMG did. Okay.
What did AMG?
AMG took Mercedes cars. Over to the AMG factory and they did stuff to them.
Right.
Okay. So they are taking.
It's just a tuning shop, basically.
Right. They're taking the 500E.
So they're taking
instead
the
of
car
like
that's
the 300. And then
so it's already been modified, not modified. Yeah, it's already been modified by Porsche,
right.
And now AMG is also doing things with it.
Correct. So basically, here's what would happen.
Why didn't you pick that one then?
What's that?
The AMG one.
Because they didn't make enough of them, and they're really hard to find, and they're expensive, and I don't know. I like the 500E. I think the E60 is not that much better. It's really not. And they're rare and they're hard to find. They had some body kit, different wheels, and a little bit more horsepower. It's really not that much better.
It was the same motor.
Yeah. It's really not that special. So here's what would happen. Mercedes would kick out one of these Mercedes cars, just a chassis.
Right.
They'd send it across the street. It would get all freaking widened and crashed. They did all the crash testing at Porsche. Okay. And then it would go back again to Mercedes to get everything fitted in. Yes. So this is back. Jake.
What?
This car did 150 miles an hour. That doesn't sound impressive, does it?
Not really.
The reason it only did 150 miles an hour is because that's when the gearing ran out. They tuned this thing to get the maximum amount of performance in a drivable range. So the gearbox ran out at 150.
Because they figured, when are you going over 150?
The AMG version does 180.
Okay.
So the thing's got legs. This car was built when Mercedes-Benz had a saying.
What was the saying?
That it is engineered like no other car in the world. This meant something, and the engineers shit on the bean counters on a daily basis.
What?
This is when engineering ran the bean counters, not the other way around.
Okay, yeah.
Now everything is like, bean, it's the money. You can't do this.
Right.
They wasted so much money on on cars. I mean, they almost went bankrupt. It was such a terrible business model. But guess what? You got great cars out of it.
Okay.
This thing isn't cool because it was partially built by Porsche. It's cool because it is the best and most influential saloon car made. Because of the way that it was designed, okay? This thing influenced the entire saloon. You look so skeptical. What's your problem?
Of Mercedes, like in general, we know I don't get.
You don't like Mercedes.
I don't like Mercedes. Good. But you're talking about all these other versions of it that could have been like, the Hammer, and then this other AMG thing one. And like, why? I don't understand this one. I don't understand. This doesn't have an AMG badge on it. This one is okay. It just doesn't seem like the top of the line, cream of the crop.
You can't find the other car. They didn't make any of them.
All right.
It's not even worth thinking about. You're not going to get one. You're not getting one.
And I understand this is a sporty sedan.
You also have to keep in mind that it's a very easy reason to shit on Porsche. Because I can say that this car got built at Porsche when Porsche was around twiddling their thumbs because they weren't selling anything. Yeah. Talk about the factory. That's kind of why I picked it.
Okay.
Let's be honest.
Let's be honest. Just that.
But it is also.
Did they ever race this car in any form?
No.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of. They were too busy in DTM with the 190E.
Oh. Evo. So is this a bigger version
of a 190E?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Normally this car was like a 300E, would have an inline 6 in it.
Okay.
Really pedestrian.
Is
E-Class.
Okay. The 190E is an E-Class?
I will tell you that the Mercedes nomenclature for naming and models fucking sucks. You know, I know things by
How
like
many
chassis number.
sedans were there in this time?
What kind of question is this?
Like, if I'm going to go buy a 500E in the showroom,
Yeah.
how many other models are there?
Well, you can get the 5s. Oh, at Mercedes?
Yes.
You're probably getting a 300E or a 300 diesel is probably the two models that you're looking at. Or you're looking at this, which is like...
I guess I'm curious. So, like, what is their product lineup? If the 190E also exists, these seem like the same car to me. I don't understand what's different about them.
190 is much smaller.
Okay.
It's a much smaller car. Yeah, it's a smaller
so
car.
Is that their compact? That's their small one.
Yes, that would have like you could get the 2.3 or the 2.5. You could get the 4-cylinder, or you could get the 6-cylinder, or you could get the 16-valve, which was like the sportier with the little wing on it. Now that we know.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that one.
And then you had
why would you pick that one?
And you had the S-Class, and you had like the SL500, which was where they got this V8 from. Was pulling it out of the SL500.
They made 190 Cosworth, didn't they?
Yeah.
Why didn't you pick that one?
I don't really like it. I don't like the way that it looks. I don't like the gearbox. I've driven it. I don't like it. I don't like the car. Okay. I truly don't. I'd rather have a regular 190E. But that's not exciting to talk about either. I don't like the one. Hey,
I mean, none of these are, but.
Hey, kill me. I don't like the 190E 16-valve. I'd rather have an E30 M3.
I think that's kind of an unpopular opinion as well. Well, I would also rather have an M3. Yes, agreed.
Yeah, but I mean, they're much.
But if I'm going to pick a Mercedes, it's the one with the big wing that went DTM racing.
But it's not. You're not getting that car. You're getting a 190E 16-valve. You're not getting an Evo 2 with wide body and wheels and a bigger wing and like bucket seats. You're not getting that car. Maybe that's what's the most disappointing to me about the 16-valve is that it's really not that close to the one that actually DTM raced. When you go buy an E30 M3, it looks like the same car. The 190E 16-valve does not look like the same car at all. I mean, they sold way less of the Evo 2, only enough to homologate it, but they sold like 20,000 E30 M3s.
Sure. Yeah, I see what you mean.
So you know what I mean? Like it's just the 16-valve just seems like it's like this diluted version.
Yeah. Okay.
Whereas the E30 M3 seems like you're buying the actual car.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
All right. That's it. We're done. See you later.
Okay, now that we've established that.
I haven't found anybody that drives one of these yet to talk to. I don't know if I will. So you will just have to. I
thought they're so common. That's why you picked this one. Oh, you can buy these, no problem.
You can buy them, no problem.
But no one bought them.
I didn't have anybody really contact me. I think I have a guy. I'm not sure. I'm just warning you that we may or may not be talking to someone else after this, or the episode might just be over. I don't really know.
Should I pretend to be the guy we talked to just in
case?
No,
because you're just going to talk a bunch of shit. That's no good. We don't want to do that. All right, here's our may or may not interview, or this is going to be Jake and I signing off and talking to you next week. We'll find out. All right, that was a good interview that we may or may not have had.
Right.
I don't know. So what do you...
Right.
You really... Anytime we bring up Mercedes on this podcast, you are such an asshole about it. Like, you just, like, all of a sudden you're just like, and you start asking, like, ridiculous questions.
What was
like
ridiculous? What was ridiculous?
You dive into the weeds more than any other car. Like, you're just in the weeds, like, digging around.
Honestly, it's because I don't understand. I do not understand them. I know nothing about the model lines of them. They don't make sense to me.
That's ignorance, not lack of understanding.
Okay, yeah.
It's a big difference.
Okay.
Not understanding means you know and you don't get it. Ignorance means you're unaware. It's different.
Right, okay. I'm unaware.
Okay, so
I'm genuinely asking questions.
Okay.
I'm not trying to be an asshole. But the fact that they're not exciting and your answers aren't exciting, that's the problem.
What do you mean it's not exciting?
The fact that you think I'm digging in to just make things...
It's got a World Endurance Championship motor in a sedan. Like, that's built by Porsche because they sucked and Mercedes needed a car and it participated in the Super Saloon race. What do you mean? How is that not cool?
Yeah, okay.
How is it not cool?
Okay, here's I think my problem. No one's going to be cross-shopping a 911 with this thing.
No one's going to cross-shop anything with what we're talking about. Who's going to be like, I think I should get a 911 or a Testarossa. A 911 or a Spada. Like, no, nobody's cross-shopping any of this. That's the point of this, is to put it in your mind so maybe you can think about doing it.
Okay. Well, the list today...
How is it not cool?
Out of the list today, I would pick the Espada.
Fine. Why is this car not cool? This Mercedes. You got to tell me. It's bothering me.
Okay. Did it come with a manual?
No.
That's strike one.
5-speed automatic. You could shift.
How heavy was it?
I don't know.
What does it drive like?
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, even Jason Camisa says it's the best saloon car ever made.
Yeah.
And he's the guy. He's the guy.
I love that it's a V8.
Yes.
I know it's engineered well. Like I
Presence.
know
Showing up to at a event in this would be special.
No one would understand what it is.
At Cars and Coffee, no one would see an E500 know what it is.
Yep.
Every Porsche dork with a 911 there would know what it is.
Yeah.
Because they all go, hee, that's the Porsche built Mercedes.
Built. Yeah.
When realistically, it isn't. It was like some stuff
They
work was
just
done.
modified the frame.
It's not like the RS2, which was actually, the Audi RS2?
Yes.
Was built in a collaboration.
Yeah.
Audi, Porsche.
Yeah, that one's better.
Yeah, that's
cool.
That's a cool. Why is that all of a sudden cool? You don't even like wagons. Your wife won't even entertain test driving
wagons now.
What? Yeah. Ooh, are you gonna get an E60?
You realize, will you please? You made fun of the Audi
God.
Avant, but that was part of my motivation buying that car is so she could experience the wagon and be like, look at all the stuff I can put in.
And
this.
how'd it go?
Great, she's into it.
Okay.
She wants a B7
All right.
S4.
No.
What?
No.
What's your deal? Yes.
E63 AMG. Fucking man up and buy the car. Buy the car.
The car that I don't care about or have affinity to?
It was way, way better than anything Audi's ever produced. Hands down. I don't care if you're listening to this podcast and getting a little security device and sliding into your radio and pulling your radio out and throwing it out the window after I say that. I don't care. The E63 AMG and most
Why
AMG,
is that not on your list then?
It's too modern. It doesn't fit the old, too old thing.
Yeah.
The pre-OBD. Dude, if we didn't have some rules with this, it could get out of control.
No, I know. I forgot the pre-OBD.
Yeah, it's got to be pre-OBD.
That makes sense.
The E60 AM3 is a twin turbo V8.
Yeah, no,
It is
I
an
understand.
absolute monster. And it's a Mercedes. The build quality is far and above anything that Audi does. Audi has gone off the rails. Their interiors look like somebody that loved Pagani, but then got hit on the head before they designed.
New anything past 2008 Audi, I don't like.
You got to at least drive one. You got to drive one and then let me come with you. I really want to drive one. Dude, AMG wagons are just so legit. And if Nikki is finally into it, this is your chance, dude. Seize the day. Seize the day. On that note, we will see you guys next week after Jake looks one up and drives one with Nikki. Maybe. See you later, guys.
Take care.